Venezuela's National Assembly has rejected the state of emergency declared by the country's president, Nicolas Maduro. They say the decree is unconstitutional and have called on the military to choose a side in the country's political divide. The state of emergency declared earlier this week grants the government wide powers to try to curb the country's worsening economic crisis. President Maduro has repeated his claim that foreign powers are trying to stage a coup in Venezuela.
A violent atmosphere has been created in Venezuela in order to justify foreign military intervention. They believe that it is the right moment, following the coup d'etat in Brazil, and the whole international campaign reveals its plans and intentions to create a psychological profile to sensitize people around the world.
Inflation in the South American country is predicted to hit 700% this year, and basic food, water, and medicines are running scarce. Parrock reports from Caracas.
The Venezuelan opposition leader Enrique Capriles says that if President Nicolas Maduro wants to enforce the decree he's put in place as part of his 60-day emergency that he called, that in fact the government will need to get out their warplanes and their tanks and come out in the streets against the opposition forces and the people in the streets. Conversely, the President Nicolas Maduro has said that he predicts the fall of the opposition-held National Assembly parliament here in Venezuela. He accuses that parliament of trying to undermine the government and starting an economic war to try to bring the country to its knees. Now, he put together this decree, which was part of this 60-day economic emergency, which includes the scrutiny of private individuals and the freezing of their assets if the government believes that they are trying to wage this economic war against the government. It also includes giving power to the government to reduce the working week in the private sector. The entrenched positions between the opposition and the government are now growing even more polarized, and on Wednesday we expect to see large protests, opposition protests across Venezuela against this decree, against the government. They're calling for a referendum to recall the government by the end of the year. Protests that happened last week in Caracas specifically saw police fire tear gas at protesters, and it's expected that this week's protests could have some violence as well. The government says that the protests that are coming are in fact illegal.